So let me introduce myself. I'm Ivan, Newcastle United fan for way too long. In fact, the term I prefer is Newcastle United sufferer fan na অনেক like lots of pain over the years. Uh, আমার সাথে শিহাব আছে. শিহাব, introduce yourself.
I'm Shihab, Man United fan and sufferer. But অতটা misery হয়নি যতটা ইভান ভাইয়ের হয়েছে আর কি, because we've never got relegated.
I've been relegated twice, so relegation pain আমি বুঝি. Uh, just little point towards our producer Rifat. He's also a Man United fan, unfortunately. So yeah, let's start with the big news from yesterday. That's Kevin De Bruyne. He's injured and out for 2 to 4 months. It's really sad news for him and Man City.
This could be huge because এবার লিভারপুলের স্কোয়াডটা অনেক ব্যালেন্স. They have a legit shot at the title. So if De Bruyne's out for 4 months, this definitely gives them a good chance. I mean, it feels so weird to say that Liverpool will be going for the title, but they have a good chance this season.
Yeah, Liverpool had a good chance even if Man City had like De Bruyne থাকা অবস্থায় লিভারপুলের ভালো chance. They have a really good team, but this changed like betting company like odds changed drastically big time. And Liverpool's odds have gone up, and Man City's odds have shortened. So like has gone down rather. And this could
It feels more like even ground now.
well close to even ground. I think Man City is still every position they have world class players, whereas Liverpool are at every position and but they have a good solid team.
And in terms of depth, City is so far ahead.
Our Man City bench, if you look at it, কিভাবে মানে ওদের bench থেকে like if Liverpool if Salah gets injured, like Liverpool at কে আছে like replace করার. They might have Lallana, but
City in terms of depth has the best squad in the world, I'd say, even better than Real Madrid's.
yeah, even better than Real Madrid or Barcelona.
If you look at their bench, or their backup striker starts for Brazil, or their backup winger, I don't know if that's Mahrez or Sane, but both of them are fantastic. Bernardo Silva is also fantastic. But they have so many good players sitting on their bench. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just really sad for De Bruyne because he had a decent World Cup. I felt like this season that would be his time to like really shine and possibly like place himself in Ballon d'Or contention maybe for next year. But he's gonna miss out almost 2 to 4 months. Any news exactly koto or
The way it works is Pep Guardiola ji personal doctor tasses something googled something ওর কাছে পাঠায় and instead of 4 months it's 4 weeks হয়ে যায়. I don't know how it happens, but it always does.
Well, Benjamin Mendy was out for almost 7 months, and it was 7 months. So
That was the only
I don't know,
case.
maybe and to be fair, Man City জন্য যদি De Bruyne 3 মাসের জন্য injured হয়, it's better season's শুরুর দিকে rather than like heavy Champions League knockout stages at time, right?
I don't think they're gonna miss him that much. I mean, City is a pretty balanced squad. They're gonna cope up with them. অতবার একটা issue হবে না,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, let's move on to the other big news. This is from today, I think, or well, actually, might have been yesterday. That is Pogba and Mourinho. Huge bust up. This hasn't been confirmed. Like it has, like I think Mourinho denied it today, but yeah, what's the lowdown?
This has been brewing for such a long time. I mean, if you go back to last January, তখন rumors ছিল Pep Guardiola claimed যে Mino Raiola offered Pogba to City. And when someone claims that, it's never a good thing. Then the news was always there in the tabloids. Pogba and Mourinho aren't seeing eye to eye. And there were a lot of interviews from Pogba's part that he's not happy, he's not being able to play the way he wants to. And then that match against Sevilla where he got dropped and we got eliminated. That was like, I mean, come on, you don't drop Paul Pogba for Scott McTominay in a Champions League match and you don't lose when you do that. If you do it, it's going to cost you. But United denied it. Then again, they also denied that they weren't gonna sack Van Gaal, and they did the day after. So I won't
So
look much into it.
what was the exact comments that Mourinho made towards Pogba that
I
like
think
incited all of this?
I think it was something on the line of, I hope he realizes why he was so good in the World Cup, hinting that he was more inclined to playing in a defensive role. And
So
what Pogba
Eita
said,
and Mourinho had a huge problem. I think this. You have this player, World Cup Jitse, and he played really well for France. He scored in the final. Like you need to utilize this opportunity. Like you need to make the best of this. Like you have this player who's at the highest of the highs. He's a World Cup winner and he's a star. Instead of like downing him, like you need to follow what you did at the World Cup, like stuff like that. Like it's a dorkan nahi. So a lot of what Mourinho does is so unnecessary, and I feel like it hurts his own team.
এটার কোনো দরকার ছিল না. I don't know why he did that. It's just he tries to use the media to get his way or to convince fans that his way is the right way, and he's been trying to do this in the entire time he's been here, or even before that. He's been taking shots against everyone who doesn't follow his instructions. He's been taking shots at the board, and that's fine. But there should be a limit. You can't piss off Pogba. If you piss off Pogba, you're the one who's gonna get sacked, not him. So you should know your limits. And I think Mourinho's slowly crossing that line.
There's a feeling that he wants to get sacked, right?
I mean, I do believe he does because the board's clearly lost confidence in him. They didn't back him this summer, and there was this article from BBC where it stated United board felt the targets they were handed out weren't good enough to improve the squad. এমন একটা লাইন ছিল যে the targets that were left out, United board felt like they'd be swapping their fifth center defender for another club's fifth center defender. This is a player Mourinho wants, and the board is vetting the move, saying that he's not good enough. He will be the fifth best defender at the club. So the board is not backing him, and when that happens, it's never a good sign. He wanted to sell Martial, and Ed Woodward said no. He wanted to get Willian. Woodward said no.
But wait, hang on a second. There's border kichu dosh asse to, but like last like transfer deadline data, there was this whole talk of Toby Alderweireld. I can't pronounce his name properly. Toby, like Tottenham's Toby. So, but BBC, one of the BBC reporters, I forgot what his name was. He said that no bid was made. Like Manchester United kono bid kore nai. So how is that Mourinho's fault? There was no bid for Boateng either.
It wasn't Mourinho's fault. What happened is Spurs wanted Martial in return. Martial and Mata, but mostly Martial. And Woodward wasn't going to sell him. এখানেই conflict ছিল. Levy wasn't going to budge from his position.
But Mourinho has an argument that I wanted a central defender, and I gave you I named you Boateng, or I named you Toby, and there was Harry Maguire as well. Lots of talk. No bids were made for any of these players.
The problem, the board is not fine, man. The board is not showing confidence in Mourinho, and that's not a good thing.
That's a good point, because I guess the board is looking back at last year, Victor Lindelof, 30 million, and the year before was Eric Bailly for another 30 something million. So I think the board came back more like, okay, we bought you 2 central defenders the last 2 years. Why do you need another one? And you already have Smalling, Jones, and who else, whatever. So that might be it. Like with the central defenders, I actually sympathize with Mourinho. I think he wanted one, and a club the size of Manchester United, I think they should have gotten him somebody.
Should have. But I think what the board is thinking is the signings we made under Van Gaal were completely useless under Mourinho. So they're not wanting to spend more than they can afford with Mourinho, because they feel like Mourinho might be leaving at the end of the season, and the next manager might feel burdened with these players. Like Mourinho is currently feeling burdened with the likes of Darmian, Rojo, Blend, etc. It's going to probably backport the season, because you're going to have to sell him anyways when Mourinho goes out.
All right, so somebody has a question to this board topic. So we're gonna wait for that question. In the meantime, let's move from Mourinho really quick. Arsenal, new manager, first time in 22 years, someone other than Arsene Wenger was in charge of the Arsenal dugout in a professional football game. Insane. So, Chia, did you watch the game? Man City versus Arsenal?
I did.
So I only watched the highlights. I was like on the road at that time. So how was it? Like, what do you think? Was it like, did Arsenal show anything that they might improve,
I think it
or
was a
is
more
this?
optimistic. I felt it was a more optimistic performance. They felt like they could get something, and they tried, but they were eventually outplayed. But they tried. They showed fight and character at times. It wasn't like when they're bending over for City like you'd expect to under Arsenal Wenger. They tried, but City were just too good.
No, City. Like the highlights really showed City almost dominating the whole game. Uh, my thing was like Arsenal has so many of these new players that and Unai Emery. By the way, I think I just want to say to any Arsenal fans listening or anybody out there, I think Unai Emery is a really good appointment. He can like he's the perfect man that they need right now. Like they didn't like Arsenal didn't make the same mistake that Man United did, appointing someone like David Moyes, who was completely inexperienced. Unai Emery, very experienced manager. He's dealt with rebuilding squads at Sevilla, and I think uh, his time at PSG wasn't all that bad. I think it was more of him coaching them too much rather than not coaching them enough. Whereas that is exactly what Arsenal need right now because Arsene Wenger wasn't like the detail oriented managers like Pep Guardiola or Bielsa or somebody. And Arsenal, like they have been laid back for so long, almost like 20 years. They need someone who's gonna like tell them what to do every single minute of every single game.
Well, that's a good point. I still think, man, we should be giving Emery a lot of time and not be judging him instantly because this is not a great squad. This Arsenal team isn't as good as the old Arsenal team. So you can't just expect Emery to come in and beat City in their first game. I don't think anyone can beat City when they're at their best. There's a good chance everyone will get outplayed. So let's give him time and see how he does before judging him. I've seen a lot of
All
trolls
right,
about
we
Emery.
have two
Nothing serious.
questions for you. Yeah. So one of them is Ferguson is currently sick. Do you think his absence has had an effect on this transfer season? Why
I
would
don't
it
think
have an
so.
effect? I'm curious.
I don't think so. Ferguson's just an honorary president there, honorary director. Sorry, he doesn't really have any say in that board.
I don't think Ferguson has had any say in transfers ever since he left. Maybe the first season, Johan,
That was more like
Moyes
a
bought.
show of respect you had since you were here for such a long time. Let's do you an honor, but that
Yeah,
doesn't
I
necessarily mean
think
that he has a
yeah.
say.
I don't. For example, I don't think Ferguson. I don't think someone like even Ibrahimovic would have been Ferguson's buyer. I'm not. I don't know. Just curious.
If I remember correctly,
Uh,
after got sacked, after Van Gaal got sacked, Ferguson took Pochettino out to a dinner in some London restaurant. I don't know, remember the name. His preference was always Ryan Giggs, and if not Giggs, it was Pochettino. And he's even
but
been
then
vocal
whose
about that.
preference was Moyes?
Moyes was his preference. I'm talking after Van Gaal. And
Oh, Van Gaal. Okay.
Simon Woodward went for Mourinho, but Ferguson always wanted Giggs or Pochettino.
I think you dodged a bullet with Giggs. No offense, but I really think you
Probably
dodged a
did.
bullet with Giggs.
I was never in favor of
Listen,
Giggs.
class of '92, some of the greatest players ever to have played the game. But we saw what happened with Gary Neville and Valencia, and it could easily have
Happened with
happened again.
what happened with Neville is that he didn't really want to become a manager. He had that opportunity because he was friends with Peter Lim. He gave him an
Yeah,
opportunity and he took
and
it, but he was never serious about it. He never took his badges
He,
seriously. He wasn't
but he screwed up
going with the
royally.
job.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, he screwed up bad. But with Giggs, he was far more concentrated about the job than Neville ever was. Neville's just a punter. Saying that, Giggs was never the right guy to be picked. I mean, he shouldn't have been. At United, you need someone who's used to the pressure, who's won something in his life, or at least done well
Okay,
somewhere.
something I forgot about Man United. What's the situation with the director of football? Somebody is asking.
I think there's a good chance we're going to appoint a director of football. And boy, we've been crying out loud for this. I've been screaming my lungs out against every single one in every single group, against every single United fans for about the necessity of a director of football. People just don't get what they do. They're basically the modern day managers. Coaches are like the head coaches, Jetta Pochettino mostly, I think. All he does is basically improve the players and set the tactics. He doesn't have any other jurisdiction over the club. Everything else is being done by the director or the CEO or whatever there is. So
So Man
directors are
United
the
is
guy.
appointing a director.
Yeah, they probably will. It looks very likely that they will.
Do we know who?
And there's been a few names. I mean, Kalkis Sky Sports there's this guy Paul Mitchell who used to work for Spurs and Southampton, and he's currently at Leipzig. So he should be experienced about rebuilding teams, especially with younger players, and that's what we need at the moment, and that's what Woodward wants, according to certain
So
tabloids. So I think
there's
it'll
a
be
curious point. Like, so there's I'll give so the example of, say, someone like Sevilla. I don't know the current situation. So before, when they had Monchi, it was like they okay. Not okay. I won't even go into Spain. Let's go to Watford, right? So Watford has a model where they they the they have a management team or a transfer team, whatever. They buy players, have a coaching model like for their youth and their first team. They buy players and they sell players, and the owners are very involved and everything. And they have almost like a revolving door of managers. So what they have one set model, and it doesn't matter who's the manager. The manager just comes in and they just manage the team. But the model never changes with Watford. Yeah, I don't know if I can explain myself properly. Like they can just put anybody as the manager, but their transfer policies, their youth programs or anything else in the club doesn't change. Whereas you had like Arsenal, where Wenger was in charge of like everything from the top to the bottom. I even heard like he was in charge of the women's team and like the under 14s. Like he was everything that happened at Arsenal went through Arsene Wenger. Uh, Same goes for Newcastle right now. Like Benitez has been given the free role of transfers, and he's the director of football. Like he's the first team manager. He's everything. So which model is preferred? Like which one is better? Do you think?
side with Watford's because if you look at Bayern Munich, I think they're the best example out there. Under Rummenigge, and I'm not sure who's working with him. I forgot the name. But Bayern Munich always had this model that everything that they do would be centered around the board of directors. They would have a very big say in everything they do, and they wouldn't sacrifice their club's values for them. They always promote their academy players. They'd always try to push more German players into the team. They'd have a certain style of playing, which we want as United fans, because United has been always seen on the same level as Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, AC Milan. They're seen as the biggest club in England, and they've
Oh,
had
biggest
this.
club in the world, probably. Yeah.
You can say that. And they've always had these values, like promoting the younger players. They've always had some certain star players in the England national team. They've always been playing attractive, attacking football. It's what the fans expect. It's what the fans want at the Stratford End. So when you don't do these stuffs, fans will get pissed, even if the results are good. Like last season, we weren't that bad. We were second. We had like 82, 83 points, which is very good. But the football wasn't good enough for us because at United, you have to match a certain standard. It doesn't matter if it's Mourinho, it doesn't matter even if it's Simeone, who has a very good reputation, and a lot of fans want him. But I don't think he'll be a good fit. Why? Because Simeone doesn't play the football you need to at United. I'm not saying, man, be like Klopp and put all the guys up front and score as many goals as you can and then lose for three. I'm not asking United to be a bottler like Klopp, I'm gonna take a
Do
shot
you
at
think?
Liverpool. Of course I will.
Okay, now, I'm really curious. Like, since you brought Liverpool up again, do you think you're Man United fan there? Like, how to explain this? Like, Man United fan there got Staro Beshi against Mourinho and the club because of how Man City plays or because of how Liverpool plays.
Of course, because at the
What
beginning of last
it
season, I mean, at the beginning of last season, this was being built up as the Pep versus Guardiola part two or part three, and people were like, "Ever United versus City fight up," and midway through the season, United weren't even anywhere near the team. So of course, that affected our judgment. If we had won the league and City say had got 80 points, and we played exactly the same way we did, and we won the title, no one would be saying Mourinho out or Mourinho needs to
exactly?
get out
That's
or
my point. That's my
etc.
point.
Because Pep played so well, it made us bitter. Of course, it did, and it sucks when you see your rival teams play so good. It sucks because that's how well we should be
And
playing, and that's where we should be at.
and it's also a really good point there. Like this World Cup was one of the more free flowing World Cups we've seen in a long time as well. Like there was lots of really good attacking plays, like from many teams, and including the world champions France. Like they played uh, like really good football. It wasn't like fully just sit back and defend for 90 minutes. And the final had 6 goals. We haven't had a final with 6 goals in I don't know how long, in probably years.
Yeah, and for a United fan, this World Cup was special because it shows a lot of players in our squad who gets dissed because they're not about not being good enough or being bottlers or big match chokers. They really aren't that. Lukaku showed if he can do it in the World Cup stage, if he can do it in the biggest tournament in the world, he can do it against any Premier League teams in the world. If Pogba can be consistent about his performance in the World Cup, he can be so against anyone else, whether it's Stoke in Friday night or whatever, or against any other team. So the thing is, আমাদের player কেন United এসে perform করছে না? That's the question everyone's asking because we saw Pogba playing very good at Juventus. I know a lot of people didn't watch him at Juventus. I did, and I know he's that good. And he hasn't played as good as he was at Juventus, regardless of what the stats might say. I know the stats say he's averaged more key passes than Kevin De Bruyne, but he wasn't anywhere near Kevin De Bruyne in terms of chance creation. Let's be honest. So
No,
what the World Cup showed is that these players aren't that bad. These are players aren't chokers or inconsistent or whatever. And haircuts don't really matter, and it doesn't matter how you celebrate your goals. They're good players, but they're not performing for United. Why is that? That's the question. Because
okay.
they should.
So
When you sign Pogba, you expect a player to be. You expect him to be in the top five in the Premier League, not just in the midfielder category, but overall. But he hasn't even been in the top 2 or 3 midfielders in the league. To be very honest.
all right, are we gonna move? Let's move on from Man United, right? So we've touched a little bit on Arsenal. Let's talk about Chelsea. Uh, is this gonna be one of those seasons where Chelsea নতুন manager আসবে, everybody's like counting them out, and they somehow come and win the league?
I don't really see them winning because man, City are so good, you can't see that anyone else winning the league. But I think
But
they'll have a good season because
this is very similar to Conte's first season, isn't it? Like
yeah,
Conte's first season
because
was like what everyone was like. It's Guardiola versus Mourinho, and you have what's Tottenham finished second the year before and blah blah blah, and then Conte came and just won the league. Like he literally walked the league. He didn't win it.
I remember that game against Arsenal where they lost and everyone's like top four of our neighbor and he did
Exactly.
bug the league. So you never know what happens. But seeing how strong City is, I don't really see anyone else winning it. But I think they're gonna have a good season, probably third or second.
And the Chelsea game was one of the games actually we can never take towards and I think the first half was so and so, and the second half they like under I don't know what Surrey did or told them at halftime, but the things changed really well. And Hazard, I think he only played what like 20 minutes or was it 15 minutes? Hey, this guy is so good. I mean, he has come leaps and bounds. I mean, he has improved so much, and he's having probably the best year of his football career. Any chance of him leaving for? Real Madrid before the transfer window ends?
I don't see him leaving this season. I think he's gonna sign a new contract. I expect him to stay. I think Madrid will go for someone like Neymar because it just makes sense.
But Neymar is
Neymar
not
is
going to be this season. Neymar, if Neymar happens, Neymar might happen
I
next
don't see Madrid making a big signing this season. I really don't.
Well, we're gonna talk about the Super Cup final, but don't you think that if Real Madrid loses like the first league game of the season, they're just gonna go like Perez is gonna go crazy, like because Real Madrid has this. Well, they have a different model where they have a presidency, and then the club members vote for the president. And if the president is seen not doing enough, the president is gonna be voted out. And I don't know when the next voting is, but Perez wouldn't want to piss off the members, and this is three like back to back to back Champions League winners. They sold their best player of the last half century. Um, they need to be seen doing something, and if they have a bad start to the season, I think they're gonna go crazy on somebody, whether it's Martial or Hazard or somebody. They're gonna. I just see it happening.
I can see them buying someone, but I just don't expect this guy to be Hazard because the window's already shut. When you sell Hazard, you need to replace him with someone who comes at least close to him, and no one really does, and you can't even sign.
And
so why would you sell him?
At one point, I think it was one Chelsea fan made to me was, like the board had Conte had huge problems with the board because the last season. He wasn't backed by the board with money. Whereas this season, Sarri's here. They bought Jorginho, who's I think he's going to be a fabulous player in the Premier League. They also replaced Courtois with the highest, with the world record transfer fee for a goalkeeper. So why do you think what changed? All of a sudden, Chelsea is is ready to back the manager in the month.
After the havoc that happened in the last window, they sacked Emiliano, who was in charge of the transfers. He was the director, or in a similar role.
I think
they sacked him, and that's
no. I think he left after the transfer window. Like he left somewhere around October.
It rooted from that window, Archie. They couldn't get the players they wanted, and then they made some panic buys in the last minute. Drinkwater, Berkeley, Zappacosta, none of them worked out, obviously. So that's what changed. He left, and now there's a new guy in charge. And Sarri's being hurt more than Conte was in his last season. And that's made the difference. And they've actually had a good window, let's say. I know Kepa's been a bit overpriced, but yeah, that's how the window is now. Alisson was 75 million. You have to pay for Gichnai. They got
Courtois is a good buy for Real Madrid.
He's one of the best keepers in the world, and you're getting him for just 35 million. That's peanuts in this market.
Is he really a massive upgrade on Keylor Navas?
I rate Navas very highly. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the world. Not just goalkeepers, but overall in all positions. But Navas is 32, and Courtois comes with that image. He plays for Belgium. He was at Chelsea. He was at Atletico Madrid. So, and you need players like that at Madrid. And makes sense. He just ticks a box. He's younger, and he's just as good, if not better.
All right, so we'll talk about the other Premier League teams later. Really quickly, probably the biggest news today is La Liga has announced plans to hold regular season matches in the United States. This came out of nowhere.
This is so ridiculous. I mean, why? Why would a Spanish La Liga game take place in America? It makes no sense.
And I can't see this game being Getafe versus Levante or something, because no one's gonna be watching that. No one those games don't even fill up in Spain. So it has to be Real Madrid or Barcelona. And imagine the Real Madrid playing a home game in New York, and their fans are gonna go crazy. What's gonna happen?
Big teams will be favorites in every single game. I mean, even if it's a Getafe home game versus Real Madrid, do you really think New York people would wear Getafe jersey and support Getafe? No. So it makes no sense. So there's some advantage.
That makes more sense, because আমি চিন্তা করতেছিলাম যে যে রিয়াল মাদ্রিদের 19টা হোম গেমের মধ্যে ওরা একটা হোম গেম খেলবে like New York. So I think Real Madrid being who they are, they might force the another home game, another one of our away games is gonna be in New York. That makes more sense because Real Madrid, Real Madrid their fans, they pay money for their season tickets, and they're not gonna be happy যে ওরা 19টা হোম গেম থেকে একটা মানে দেশের বাইরে না পুরো কন্টিনেন্টের বাইরে চলে গেছে. So but then that also brings a point like where Getafe fans like we can only get to see the European champions once in a year, once in a season, and now you're taking that away and you're putting them like 10,000 miles away. I just don't see this like working out really well. I think they're gonna make money out of it.
It doesn't make any sense for me.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make
honestly.
any sense for me.
Like even and the club like Getafe or we're picking on Getafe, but it could be anybody like Real Betis. Betis is a big club, and even for Betis, like if Real Betis moves one of their home games, so say to MetLife, and MetLife's what 80,000, and it's against Barcelona, so Betis itself and the TV rights, the advertisements, the sponsors, Betis is gonna make a lot of money, and way more than they would if they were just hosting Barcelona in their like 40,000 or 50,000 capacity stadium. I think the club, but the fans will suffer, and the fans will start voicing out, and fans in Spain. Same goes for England, Germany, Italy. They are crazy. They're crazy about their football. They're crazy about their team. They're not going to be very happy if one of their home games is being moved this far.
It makes money for those clubs, but it also takes 3 points away from them. If Real Madrid and Barcelona are having to play a home game at New York or California or whatever, why shouldn't the other 18 teams also have to play a game there? They should be having to, because you need fair and unity. So if you're Getafe or Betis or
Okay, so I don't know if you remember this, but there was there was some talk. I think it was like 12-13 বছর আগে হবে, or maybe more, maybe like 14-15 বছর আগে. There was talk of a 39th game week in the Premier League. So the Premier League season would be like you finish 38 games and then the last weekend of games, last game, you have it in neutral venues all over the world. So you could have you have a game in China, you have a game in Malaysia, in Indonesia, and then you have a game in the US and some other parts of the world. And there was huge stuff. I think Richard Scudamore was really for it. Like he saw the dollar bills and then he started going crazy. But this was so widely criticized. Like মানুষ এত চেয়েছিল ওই টাইমে that it was shut down eventually. And this was a long time ago. And that was what 2005-06. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago. I can easily see this idea popping back up in 2018, and this time it might actually happen. Like people might not go crazy because so many things have changed in football. You might have a 39 game week, whereas you might be able to see Man United versus Liverpool playing somewhere, playing in China, and it being an official Premier League game where 3 point a win is a win, and win counts towards your 3 points and stuff like that. What do you think about that?
It might happen. The game's changed so much in the past few years. It might happen, especially at the Premier League, because let's face it, the Premier League is our money horse. They are. So it might happen, and I think the reason Spanish footballing association, I'm not sure what they call it, they took this decision is because Premier League are making so much money. They have a $5 billion deal, £5 billion deal, sorry, with Sky and BT Sports. Even Serie A are making big bucks now. And
Serie A has been making really big moves.
They're making some really big bucks, and Spain aren't, because they aren't being able to attract big sponsors. They aren't getting as much as the other leagues are for their product, despite having probably the best technical football in the world available to them. So they're feeling like, why shouldn't we cash in? All the other leagues are. So why shouldn't we be making big bucks? But I don't know. It's not something I support. I don't think this is something any of the fans will support. Sevilla spoke out against the decision to shift the Super Cup to both I think Morocco. They were denied in the protest,
The
but
Super Cup wasn't. Yeah, yeah.
I think it was
And
in Morocco,
then
and they were denied in their protest. But why should we do it? Why should a Spanish game take place in another country? It makes no sense for me.
yeah, imagine El Clasico in Bangladesh. That'd be awesome. Put a mile away, like, oh my god. That's it. Anyways.
No, I honestly don't think there is any Real Madrid fans left in Bangladesh. They've all started supporting Juventus.
or Bull and Newcastle. Um, any more Liverpool? Let's just quickly talk about Liverpool. They had I think of all the teams in Europe, the best. Or well, Inter Milan had a really good transfer window. Liverpool had a really really good transfer window.
Yeah, I think they had the best window in Europe. They addressed their weaknesses, and that's what makes their window so special. They needed a defensive midfielder, and they got Fabinho. They needed a backup winger because, as you said, Saga included the chaos, and they got Shakiri for just 16 million. That's crazy. And they got Allison. I mean, I'm gonna miss Karius. At the concussions, I think he's so high. I'm gonna miss that guy. But Allison's one of the best shot stoppers in the world, and they got him. It doesn't matter how much money it took because এখন সবাই spent করতেছে. They address their problems, and that's what makes it so good.
And they also, they finally got Naby Keita to starting to play for them. They got Fabinho from Monaco. They missed out on Nabil Fekir. I still laugh at what happened. Literally only Liverpool can, agree to a deal. Yeah, I mean, they have, I think Lallana's fit finally, and he's a player that I really like. They still have the front three intact. I think Firmino signed the new deal as well. Everything's like, other than I think if they can improve their bench, and they have some good young players in the team as well with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and they can bring up some more young players from their youth teams, they can really really do well, and they can have another go. If not, I think Coppertino League might be a little too far because of the way he plays. But something like the Champions League, I can see them really going far again and causing, like, teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man City. They fear Liverpool a lot because of the pace. Because they can, like, Liverpool can just run through you from back to front, just with pace, with Mane and Salah from either side. And
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, whereas you can. A team like Man City would rather play. They might even say that I would rather play Barcelona because we know how they play, and it's a matchup between two of the same styles of, same thought process and everything. Whereas Liverpool they don't care. They're just gonna take the ball and just run at you, and even if they don't have the ball, they're still gonna run at you, and they're like for 90 minutes, and it's really hard to compete against that pressing. I don't think anybody does that better in the world than Liverpool, like the pressing from the front right now. And it's really difficult to defend against, really difficult to attack against, and everything. Whereas Liverpool against like weaker teams might have more problems because the weaker teams will like sit back and defend rather than go forward, which is why I put them a bigger challenger in Europe rather than the Premier League. Any thoughts?
I agree that they struggle against weaker teams, and one of their biggest weaknesses used to be their defenders used to get bullied too often by the physical strikers in the league that Premier League often has. But Van Dijk is one of the best headers of the ball. He's fantastic early, and they've got also Allison as well. So এখন set pieces and corners and chances they used to concede from too often, I think they won't as much as they used to. Of course they won't, but অনেক বেশি কম হবে. So, and that's a good thing because they would dominate a match. They'd score 2 goals or 3 goals and still end up drawing, and that would cost them big in their pursuit for the title or pursuit for the second position or third position or whatever the target is at the start of the season. But
Yeah, I
now
can
they have a
just
legit game.
if you just look at like last season the result, they had so many. They had what 3 good results against Man City. They beat them 3 times, whereas they lost to Man United. Well, the other one was a
And
nil-nil draw.
if you analyze that match, the second match especially against United, what we did is use the second balls and use Lukaku to put Rashford through. We knew they were vulnerable in the air, and we used that against them. But this would probably not happen this season because Naby Keita is pretty physical. He's very hard worker. There's obviously Van
That's
Dijk
my
and
that was
Alisson
my
is a
point
fantastic shot
from
stopper.
like day one.
So that's the thing. They're addressing their weaknesses. It's
Exactly.
not like they need a right winger and they just got a right winger. They know what type of player they need, and that's the exact type of players they're getting. So
And
it
we
should
should
work.
like literally the whole of
Completely.
Premier League, should give a big thank you to Barcelona because if yeah, I can just imagine like if you place Coutinho in this midfield in this team and they
God.
literally win the league like that. He could have been the missing link, and uh, I still don't understand why Liverpool let him go in January. I think he could have been someone big especially in the Champions League final. I still believe that, and yeah, I mean it's really scary that team, like especially the pace
You add,
from
you add Coutinho to this team, they're as good as six.
yeah, I
They
mean
are.
like the starting 11 is as good as City, easily, and you could it's almost like literally, and you have Dejan Lovren at the back, and Lovren's had a really good time of it. Like he's played a Champions League final, he's played a World Cup final right now, so he's not bad. Uh, like, and they have young players coming through all the time. Again, anyways, let's leave that for Liverpool. Uh, do you want to really talk quickly about the Super Cup final yesterday? Did we watch it? Well,
I did, and one thing I keep saying is the biggest mistake Chelsea's ever made is to sell Costa. This guy is just phenomenal. I remember when the FLCB used to have this huge fight about Costa being a Bostir Pola and stuff like that.
both people,
And
yeah.
I remember having this conversation with Tahab. He is a Bostir Pola, but he's a Bostir Pola I'd love to have in my team because he's that good. He's just
Yeah,
outstanding. He's the best striker in the world by far.
right now.
There's nothing he can do right now. There's nothing he can do. He's got pace. He's got technical skills. He can dribble. He's got pace. He's got strength. He can adapt to any formation, any tactics, any league, anywhere. He's done it in both leagues. So it just shows how good he is. This guy is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
You need to be really good to stop him.
Atletico team. If we look at it, for me personally, this season, and I said this before yesterday as well, that they were my favorites for the Champions League this season. Uh, Mainly just because they have the experience. They've played 3 Champions League semifinals in the last 5 years, 2 finals including, and they have a really solid team from back to front. Godin and Jimenez, they're just like rock stars. Literally, it's crazy how good they are. Um, and you have Koke, Saul, and you have Costa really, and Griezmann. Um, Griezmann's having the best year of his life again, and you can't even argue that he's a bottler anymore because he's won the World Cup and he scored in a World Cup final as well. And it's just really, really nice to see that Spain is really no longer a two-horse race, and Atletico could genuinely go for a league and Champions League double this season. Like they genuinely can. And any slip up from Barcelona or Real Madrid, Atletico is gonna pounce. I just hope or this season they can, cut away those. Um, they can do well against the smaller teams. Like last season, they were playing really well. They were close to Barcelona, and they lost 1-0 to Espanyol. I think I can't remember if it was at home or away, and that sort of like derailed their league campaign. I just hope they can avoid those results this season, and they can have a go at La Liga, and the Champions League final is at Wanda Metropolitano. So it's just a perfect setting for Atletico to take the Champions League finally. For Diego Simeone to like cement his legacy forever.
They finished higher than Real Madrid in the league last season, didn't they?
Yeah,
And Diego Costa didn't even play for the first 6 months. So
exactly.
now he's going to be fit for the entire
Well,
season.
the only point I would say is like last season, Real Madrid in the league, they had a really bad start. I think they were 10 points down after like 6 league games or something, and after that they sort of gave up. Like they were like, we're done with the league because we're not gonna catch Barcelona, so we don't really care as long as we finish top 4. We're just gonna concentrate on the Champions League. So that might have played a part, but this season I think just on Atletico can easily finish above both Barcelona and Real Madrid on merit. It doesn't necessarily have to be that Barcelona has a bad season and Atletico finish above them, but no, Barcelona can have a good season, and Barcelona are like probably the best league team in the last like 10 years. They can have a good season. Atletico just finishes above them because they're that good.
I will heard from selling Ronaldo. It doesn't matter who you are, what team you are. You can be the biggest team in the world. You can be the greatest team in the world. But if you're selling Cristiano Ronaldo, you will miss him. And there is no player in the world who can replace him. I mean, you can get Hazard, you can get Neymar, but they won't get you 50 goals a season like Ronaldo does. And they certainly won't get you those match-winning goals that Ronaldo used to get them in the Champions League semi-finals or quarterfinals against Bayern Munich, against Juventus, and so on. So they're going to miss Ronaldo. And without Ronaldo, this Real Madrid team doesn't really look that frightening, do they? Not to me. I mean, no offense, Madrid. They're a great team. They're far better than my team, of course. But they just don't look like having the same swagger as they did before.
I just think they need to fit Gareth Bale. They need to fit Gareth Bale for at least like 80 to 85% of the season, and they can have a good season. They'll still be real with it. They still have Isco, they still have Asensio. They have Modric, Cruz in midfield, Casemiro, and they still have their talisman in Sergio Ramos, and at the back, they have Varane. They have star players like all over. It's just they're really gonna miss Ronaldo and his goal. There's no doubt about it. But they still
understand.
I think they should have replaced Benzema though. I think they should have. They should have broken.
I was gonna say. How have they not replaced Benzema yet? I mean, he's been absolutely horrible.
I think they needed a striker.
He scored 15 goals last season.
People were like, we need to get replace Ronaldo. I think they didn't need to replace Ronaldo. They could have just replaced Benzema with someone like Harry Kane. And I think that solves their goals problems. Because Benzema doesn't, he scores, but he doesn't score as many. And Harry Kane in a team like that with, Cruz and Modric providing him, and he could have scored he can easily score like 40 goals a season, every season. Plus, I want Real Madrid to buy a Harry Kane just to keep Shearer's record intact. Because I like Harry Kane to the Calais Premier League for the next 10 years. I think he's breaking Shearer's record, which is unfortunate. All right, let's move on. We'll talk about the other European teams when their league starts. I think Italy starts this weekend, so but I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I'm not gonna. We're not gonna look at that. The Premier League this weekend. I'm looking at it right now. No big games, but potential banana skins like Liverpool playing at Crystal Palace. No, we know Crystal Palace and Liverpool. Uh, they,
But just to mention this, Chelsea are facing Arsenal,
right, Chelsea
and that's
facing
a big
Arsenal.
game.
That's I sorry I missed that one completely. So this I think this one's a bigger test for um this is Arsenal's bigger test than Man City. I don't think anybody expected them to beat Man City, but this is two new managers, you know, two London clubs that missed out on Champions League. They're Tottenham has sort of surpassed both of them in terms of league performances. Anyway, this is a big game.
This is, and it will test the true characters of both managers. Just being on the bridge, I can see Chelsea winning it, but I expect Arsenal to go all out and play some good football. They should.
But so
They really
last
should.
weekend, Arsenal distance covered. Arsenal was number one, and this is literally. I think they were one of the lower ones last season under Wenger, and under Unai Emery in one game they went to number one in distance covered. So Unai Emery is gonna work them really hard. So I wonder how many of these players can really take it. I mean, even someone like Ozil, and I love Ozil, but he's not a runner. Like he's a different sort of player.
Speaking of
Um,
Ozil, he seems a bit lost in this team right now. He's got his contract, he's getting all the money paid, but is he really performing as good as he should be? He scuffed a clear chance in the box last week. You can't do that. Not when you're paid 300k a week. You can't.
yeah,
Ozil,
uh, I
Ozil
think
reminds me
my
of Wayne Rooney right now. When he was really struggling to perform, but he had the name Rooney and everyone was backing him, but he still wasn't performing. Ozil reminds me of that Rooney right now. The guy who has the name, has the money, but not performing right now. Not even close to
yeah.
what he should be at.
Well, the thing about Ozil was I was actually slightly surprised last season when they gave him the new contract. I thought they would cash in on Ozil and work to keep Sanchez at the club because I think at that time Sanchez was more important. But they were happy to not happy. They were they sort of were okay with letting Sanchez go, whereas they gave Ozil this big money contract. And I would have been really surprised if any other club in Europe would have paid him anywhere near as much to play for them. Well, we know like Bayern Munich wouldn't have because
They have a
but
very strict fixture.
yeah, exactly. So, and I really hope, I really like Ozil. I really hope he can pull through under Unai Emery. Predictions?
I see Chelsea winning this game. It's at the bridge. I hardly ever seen them losing a big game at the bridge. So
Well, they
yeah, I
lost to
see
Tottenham last
Chelsea
year.
winning. They have at times. They lost to City, Kevin De Bruyne late goal, but they usually don't, especially against Arsenal. So I'm gonna go with 1-0 to Chelsea.
Okay, really quickly about the newly promoted teams. Like, have you seen the money they've spent? Like, look at Fulham. Um,
They're going
insane,
crazy, man.
crazy, right? And
They've got
I'm sitting
Andrew
here, a
Schürrle.
Newcastle fan.
They've got Andrew
Yeah,
Schürrle, a
World
World
Cup.
Cup winner from Dortmund. He joined Fulham. You can't make this up. This can't happen.
No, a guy who scored
How?
against in a World Cup semifinal against Brazil. It's they bought Mitrovic for like 22 million. I guess Mitrovic is good, but I don't think he's
Also had
20,
a very
20
good
million.
window.
So they're
Wolves
playing
also had a very
Tottenham
good window.
this weekend. The game's at actually the Tottenham doesn't stay in Namki. Is it still White
I'm
Hart
telling you
Lane?
now. I think so. It should be.
Where are they playing? They're playing at White Hart Lane or like that the
They're
new
playing.
stadium, right?
I think the last game was at Wembley. I'm not sure.
Okay, I think this one's at Wembley. I'm not sure either.
You should know. It was against Newcastle.
No, that was at St James's Park.
Yeah, but you should know where you're playing. It's your team.
No. I'm talking about Tottenham. I don't know where they're playing this weekend against Fulham. But last weekend we played at St James's Park.
Oh, acha. I thought it was a Spurs or acha.
Yeah. Which was the same as
Pretty
last
sure
season.
where they're
Last season, our first game was at home to Tottenham. Anybody in the chat knows where this game is? Tottenham versus Fulham. Is it Wembley or the new stadium? Or someone's
It's not the
typing.
new stadium.
Oh, it's still at Wembley.
As far as I know,
What the hell happened? They didn't buy
know,
any players and they're still playing at Wembley.
I don't know why they didn't. It makes money. It's weird. They're the first team in the history of the Premier League not to buy a single player in the summer transfer window. Why they didn't, I don't know.
Well, they got Jensen back from a loan spell. That was literally the only incoming player they had this window.
I'd rather send him back to that loan spell. I mean, he's not good at all.
He's not good.
He had a good stint in Netherlands, but he's not good. Not for the Premier League.
I just see Tottenham, Harry Kane having another injury for a month like he did last season. And they really need to go forward in football. And if you're not moving forward, you're going back. Like if you're standing still, you're going back literally, because everybody else is going forward. And our predictions, I still left Tottenham top 4. But seeing how Chelsea played their first game and, knowing what Chelsea usually does, Chelsea could still easily take them out and finish top 4. Arsenal could too as well. And, if new stadium, are they going to buy players in January? Well, they did buy didn't they buy Lucas Moura in January last season?
They did.
Yeah, I think that's probably their only new player. They held on to Toby Alderweireld, which was a good sign. They're holding on to one of the best players, but and they didn't sell anybody. They put a new contract in Harry. They gave a new contract to Harry Kane. They gave new contracts to somebody else. I can't remember. So even though as much as I raid on Tottenham, I really like their model, what they're doing. But I think they should have spent some money this season, this window, even just to keep the fans and the players happy. And whether Danny Rose might still leave before the window closes.
Who will take him? The question is, who take him? Is there any good clubs who really want Danny Rose?
I think
he was a good player for the injury, but that injury really hurt him bad.
Well, Man United has Luke Shaw and who else at left back? I think Danny Rose could be a good fit at.
Yeah. We have Ashley Young, the best left. The best left back in England.
Well, Young's getting there. So I think Danny Rose would be a good buy for. Well, Man United can't buy this season, but I'm just saying, it could have been a really good buy because I think Rose is a very Mourinho type player as well. I remember how Marcelo sort of changed his life under Mourinho all those years ago, and Danny Rose he's nowhere near as good as Marcelo, but he's a really good Mourinho type fullback, and I think he could have done well there. But yeah,
since that injury, Rose has lost a lot of pace, and that's gonna hurt him back no matter where he goes, especially in the Premier League. You need your fullbacks to be very fast and rapid in the league. That's gonna hurt him, and that is probably why no one's buying him right now. He's got benched by Ben Davis. I mean,
I've been doing this for over an hour now. Anything else to add? Any questions, anybody? Okay. Rifat, our producer, is asking, do you think Liverpool can challenge for the title this season? I think we did cover this a little bit, but yeah, I definitely, especially with Kevin De Bruyne being out for 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. That could put a dent in City's campaign. Little bit, it might not. They still have so many good players. But Liverpool first team, if you compare Liverpool's first team with Man City, there's not a lot there. It's just not a lot of differences. But the problem with Man City is that they have Mahrez on the bench. They have Bernardo Silva on the bench. Um, it's crazy. It's insane how good their squad is. And Shihab mentioned they probably have the best squad in the world, better than Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, name anybody. So that's the thing. If Liverpool keep all their players fit, and they need to keep Van Dijk fit, which is like you imagine that defense without Van Dijk, and you struggle. They need to keep Salah fit. They need to keep Mane, Firmino, Keita. Keita. Whether Keita is a hothead as well. I think he got 3 red cards last season. And if he's getting 3 red cards this season, that's 9 games he's suspended. He can't pull shit like that, literally. So definitely they can definitely challenge for the title. People asking me, is that my voice or it's a Bhanga voice? No, that is my voice. This is how I speak. There's more thoughts on Juventus. Definitely Champions League contenders. Champions League contenders.
I wouldn't be surprised if they win. I wouldn't be surprised if they even win.
Yeah, they
have Dybala, one of the biggest, one of the hottest prospects in the world. He's not a hottest prospect anymore. He's one of the better players in the world. You have Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, Douglas Costa on the left. They bought back Bonucci. This squad is really good, especially the attack. So I wouldn't be surprised if they win. It was a really good matchup.
They have Szczesny at the back right now, right?
Szczesny's doing pretty well since moving to Juventus, actually. Since moving to Italy.
It'd still be so weird seeing Szczesny.
They also got Perrin. Szczesny won't be the starter there, I think.
Okay, Szczesny won't be the starter. Okay, that makes it cool. Okay, so there's more questions. Thoughts on Inter Milan. I don't know much about Inter Milan. Like, the only team I sort of followed is Juventus. You know much?
Inter Milan, I think they had a very overhyped window. Nainggolan's a good player, but other than that, I don't think Bakiro or Com.
Well, by the way, people think Sarri smokes cigarette, and Sarri, he smokes cigarettes. Like he's a manager. He can smoke cigarettes. Anybody have any idea how many cigarettes Nainggolan smokes? Apparently, this guy is a chain smoker, and he's still a professional footballer. I don't know how that goes. And he likes partying, so he's gonna be hitting the nightclubs in Milan a lot.
So much has been made Jack Wilshere from smoking, and Nainggolan just gets a free pass. I mean, how does that work? England has been killed for this.
Predictions for Inter Milan? Anything like? Is it like I think they've replaced, or have they replaced Napoli as the second team in Italy already, or you still give Napoli the edge?
I'd still give Napoli the edge. They have a far better squad. I mean, they've kept all their key players, right? Martins is still there. Oh no, Jorginho left, right? But I think he's been replaced by Fabian Ruiz, who's a really good player. So I'd still give it Napoli for finishing second. But no one catches Juventus.
Champions League, Inter Milan, one of the biggest clubs in the world back in the Champions League after, I think, 7 years, has it been? Or longer, I can't remember. It's been a while. So welcome back. Thoughts on how far will Barcelona go in Champions League? They go win it. They really can win it.
They should be winning. And they're gonna go for it.
And I think if they win, their best player, this is gonna be so controversial. I think their best player is not gonna be Messi.
It'll be Coutinho.
I think their best player will be Coutinho. That's my prediction. And
Imagine
this guy.
If Coutinho wins the Champions League, leaving Liverpool. Oh my God, I'm gonna have so much fun with this.
And this guy Malcolm that they Barcelona from Italian team will the player little last minute trigger. This guy Malcolm is really good. He keeps he keeps popping up on every score sheet. That every time Barcelona plays, and I look them up and like see who scored. This guy Malcolm is there. Like he scored in the Super Cup final against Sevilla as well. So I think Messi is still Messi, and listen, I'm a huge fan of Messi, but I think his time, so not his time is over. I'm not going to say that, but he might not be the focal point of Barcelona going forward. It's just maybe.
Regarding Malcolm, I just want to say that I've been following him for nearly a year, and he's one of the better wingers out there in the world. He's so young and so good. Which
Okay, so
brings me to my point. There was Mahrez, there was Malcolm, there was Zaha, there was Leon Bailey or Bailey, there was Pulisic, and we didn't go for any of them. We were fixated with the idea of signing Willian. We didn't get him, and now we're left without a winger. Why is that, and whose fault is that? Of course, it's Jose Mourinho's fault, but why is that?
No, but whose idea was it to go after Willian, specifically Willian?
Mourinho.
Yes,
I
because
mean, with any
Mourinho
other
played
manager
with
in the
him.
world. Not only because of that, but also because he suits that profile Mourinho wants. Experienced, hardworking, obedient, like you'd want.
Okay, another one we discussed on the topic of playing league games abroad. What do you think of the Association of Spanish Footballer objecting to playing abroad? So so this somebody linked this news article that the Association of Spanish Footballers. I'm guessing this is England's equivalent to PFA, Players Football Association. They have objected to playing abroad. I don't think they have a choice. At the end of the day, the players, the clubs pay them money to play, and they are under contract. So if the clubs, tell them like to play in Los Angeles or New York, wherever. I hope it's in New York, but yeah, they're gonna play because you're under contract, and refusing to play would be detrimental to your employment rather than the club. And to be fair, like most, and it's the associate, and I get that this is the Association of Football Players. I don't think the players really would mind because if you are even a big team like uh, Barcelona, if I'm pretty sure all the players at Barcelona would love a weekend away in the United States because why not, right? You could take your family there.
And
It's
if
a
you're
good.
bumping their wages,
And plus,
and giving them some bonus, do they really care where they play?
even like
I
they
don't think they
will
do.
get. I'm 100% sure they'll get some bonuses, but just even without the bonuses, because these players are like super rich, they can do without the bonuses. But like just a weekend away in the United States with your kids and with your wife, and why would you say no to that? Like I don't think the players would really say no. It's the fans more who would be
Okay,
against something
I
like
can
this.
see the Spanish players not accepting this, but the foreign players they should be okay with
The South
this.
American players, especially, yeah. The
They should be on
I can
board
see
of
this
this.
being a big problem for someone like Bilbao, like because they have a really home nationalistic fan base, and you tell like if you want to switch one of their games from Bilbao to somewhere else, and that might be a big problem. Like uh, even Atletico Madrid, like Atletico has a very right wing nationalistic wing to their fan base, like the ultras, and they're very vocal and you know they're very strong as well. And this is not for every club in Spain, but Atletico especially. Like I you can't see this going down too well with the ultras definitely. But then there will be lots
So
of fans who would, yeah, go ahead.
match in Dortmund. They have probably the best atmosphere in the entire Europe at the Signal Iduna Park, and you take that all away from them and then make them play in front of 80 random people who don't even know how to pronounce football. They probably call it soccer. So what's the point in playing in front of them just for a few big bucks? It makes no sense. I mean, this has to be the weirdest decision ever. I could understand the 39th game week, but to play a Spanish league game in America, it just doesn't bode well with me.
All right, we got a couple more thoughts on Wolves. Ruben Neves, big like this guy. This guy rejected Real Madrid to sign for them, and we can see he's a really talented player as well.
Yes. And I think Wolves has a good connection with Jorge Mendes or George Mendes, however you say it. And they've sent a lot of Portuguese players and
Yep,
a lot of his clients. I think they got João Moutinho, they've also got
yep,
the keeper Rui Patricio.
yeah,
He's doing really wonders there. And of
yeah,
course, there's Ruben Neves.
and the keeper really played. He had a really good World Cup, didn't he? So um, yeah, I think
Good
it's a
players. I think Wolves will do well this season.
yeah. I don't see Wolves getting relegated, and if since we're on the topic, like three to go down, I had Cardiff as almost as a sure shot to go down. I think Wolves and Fulham survive. There's a slight chance for Bournemouth as well. You never know. Um, like Newcastle could
I
go
think
down.
Huddersfield will go down. Nah, Newcastle won't. Benitez is good. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
Benitez isn't as good as he used to be at Liverpool, but he's still a very good manager.
I think this squad without Benitez, I think it goes down. That's my only fear.
And that
Anyways,
they probably do. We had a really bad window.
terrible.
I don't know why they didn't sign any big names. They should have.
Our transfer record is still Michael Owen, like 13 years ago, which is insane. 14 years ago. Thoughts on Barca's manager? I think he's good. I really think he's good. I think last season there was the Roma game. I think that was inexperience more than anything. And we have to keep in mind, like that was his first season in the Champions League. I think it was his first. And was it like they were up 4-1 from the first leg. Uh, I think it was slight inexperience on his part, and because he thought that the tie was over. And to be fair, can you really blame him? Like everybody in the world thought the tie was over. So um, they had a near
But
unbeaten season.
that being said, he should have made a better change than he did after they conceded the second goal. I
Yeah,
think he should have reacted when they conceded the second goal, but he didn't. And that's a big mistake.
I remember because I think so. It was Barcelona playing Roma, and there was some other game going on at the same time. There was another like obviously two Champions League games. There's another game. So I was watching the other game and following Barcelona Roma on live score, and I saw 1-0 Roma. I saw 2-0 Roma. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Barcelona's gonna come back. Uh, Roma's not gonna flip this. I saw 3-0 Roma, and I'm still like, Messi's gonna score. Something's gonna happen. And then I think the other game ended, and the TV switched to Barcelona's game. I'm sitting there watching. It's like 2 minutes to go, and Barcelona's about to get knocked out. And that's I'm like, what the hell? And the Barcelona was still like passing in midfield, like because there was literally no sense of urgency and stuff like that. And and then the final was won. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Like literally, like they screwed up a 4-1 lead against Roma, and PSG screwed up a 4-0 lead, but it was against Barcelona. But this is Roma, and all the no disrespect to Roma, but they're not the same. So I think other than that one game, can you really blame him for anything else last season? He lost only one game in the league, and that was a dead rubber game. Didn't really matter.
This is very similar to the problems Mourinho's having at United. At Barcelona, you expect a certain degree of football.
I don't. I
you
think
expect them to play.
There's a difference though. He won the league. Mourinho didn't.
He won the league, but Barcelona always win the league. Even with Enrique, they won the league and then sacked him.
No, but
Real Madrid don't really
having said that,
challenge much like that.
Having said that, I know Barcelona earned what they used to be in terms of playing free-flowing attacking football or tiki-taka, but they still won the league and the cup. And if Mourinho playing the way Barcelona did won the league, I think the conversation is different.
I'm not so sure about that because for Barcelona, winning the league isn't the target anymore. It's winning the Champions League. And not only have they failed to win the Champions League, they're going backwards in the Champions League every season. You go back to 2015 when they won the treble. The following season, they were defeated in the quarterfinals, I think. And then they struggled against PSG last season, but won and then were defeated in the next round. So they're not doing as good as they're supposed to in the Champions League, which is the biggest tournament for domestic clubs. And in the meantime, their rivals Real Madrid have won 3 in a row. So you need to go for that. You need to win the Champions League and put the statement back there that hey, we're still one of the better teams in Europe. It's not Real's domain, but they haven't been able to do so. And that's what putting their managers under pressure.
There's another question. Do you
when
want
you have
to?
Messi, you need to win the.
Yeah, that would be my only one point. Like you have arguably the best player in the world, and you haven't won a Champions League you have won one in the last 7 years or 8 in the last 7 years. Yeah, and that's with Messi. I think that is sort of inexcusable to just win one Champions League in 7 years with the best player, with arguably the best player in the world. Why does do you want to see Malcolm in place of Dembele? I don't know Malcolm that well. I don't know if you know Malcolm that well either. Do you even know Dembele that well?
Generational talent.
Yeah,
I do, and I think Dembele is gonna be one of those generational talents.
Yeah, I think we need to see a little more of Malcolm. Why does Brazil still struggle although having some of the best attacking talents?
I think Brazil has a really bad midfield. You have Paulinho and Renato Augusto starting. What do you expect? They have a good attack, but Jesus is inexperienced. The midfield was very average. So yeah, it was all down to Neymar to do everything. Oh, Coutinho too. But even so, that's not good enough for me to win the World Cup. And they went out against one of the favorites, so there's a shame in that. Belgium were the better side, more balanced, more experienced. Zidane to United. What's your thought on that? Zidane to United.
I don't see anything else. They skip. No. No. Okay, is it Jose Mourinho's last season? It might be. Thoughts on Zinedine Zidane to United?
I don't see this happening. I think Zidane will go to Juventus, where he's worked before, because sooner or later Allegri is leaving, probably for United. I don't know. Could be.
I think Allegri.
I see Zidane go back to Juventus.
I think Allegri would be a really good choice for a minute.
I think Zidane's going back to Juventus next season, and then probably will be managing France sooner or later. Inclusion of Pereira in the Brazil midfield. I don't really know much about Brazil, but I think it will be a really good decision, given that they really need someone to dictate the game, and they don't really have anyone at that moment to do that. I think if Pereira can maintain the form he's shown in the preseason, yeah, it should be a good call.
All right, let's end this. Rifat, thank you again for doing this. Everybody else, thank you for the questions.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us.
We'll do this again, I think, after the weekend. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.